Celtics Reddit podcast.
Back out to Smart. Fakes the pass all the time. Three. Bang! It's Williams three. Lobs it up for Robert Williams.
Should he go? Taylor Brown. What a thunder!
Tatum. Durant, the long reach. Tatum crossover pull-up jumper. It's good. 50 points for Jayson.
Hello and welcome to the Celtics Reddit podcast. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Joe is back on the pod. Joe, aka Nose Gross McFly. Joe, how you doing, sir? Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Thanks for letting me back on in my part-time capacity. I'm sort of like the Kyrie Irving, I feel like, of the Celtics Reddit podcast at the minute, eh?
Playing the road games.
Yeah, playing the road games.
That's right. Although that's now changing. So should we be expecting you back on a more full-time basis, Joe?
As Kyrie goes, so do I. Yeah, no, the Ben's loosened the vax mandates for Celtics Reddit podcasters, so I've been allowed.
we thought it was about time. Joe, it's been actually since February 6th was the last time that we had you on. It was after a win against the Magic, and at that point, you know, we were starting to talk about, you know, hey, the Celtics are looking good. It's about time, but we weren't really getting carried away with it at that point. So since then, we've got some post-February 6 stats for you. The Celtics are 17-3, fourth in threes made per game, sixth in assists per game, first in defensive rating, first in offensive rating, and therefore first in net rating, second in assist to turnover ratio, fourth in true shooting percentage. And, you know, there's obviously, I've minimized the amount of stats I'm throwing out. You can go down the list and they're sort of dominating in every statistical category. It's fair to say the team's trajectory has changed since the last time we spoke, Joe. How sold are you on the idea that this team is a legitimate title contender right now this season?
I mean, it's pretty hard to fight the instinct that I had, like watching the Jazz, and you're just like, this is just a demolition job, eh? Like,
yeah.
You know, like it was pretty hard to fight the, pardon me, it's pretty hard to fight the thought, like, shivers, I think I'm watching the best team in the league. You know, back on February, we hadn't beat anyone. Like, we hadn't, you know. But now we have beat a lot of people, you know. Like, how much did we beat Memphis by again? Didn't we smack them by 20? You know, it's just
it was
everybody.
Something like that. Doing a quick Google search here, but I mean, it was decisive.
Yeah.
Google has just brought me up every result other than the score. Thanks, Google.
Yeah, shut Google.
So I don't have the exact result there, but it was definitely decisive by the end.
Yeah. So you know that's sort of out. I think we've got a obviously like I feel like I get the 20 game sample size rule thrown at me since I like to use it, and if you and obviously a 20 game sample size shows that if you do something for 20 games in a row, like that's probably what you are.
Yep.
So I think like it's a good time to be a Celtics fan. And I'm really enjoying the team, as are we all. You know we're enjoying the team when we start doing those kind of, hey, look, a little bit teenage girl fan things, you know, where we're like, oh my gosh, the vibes are so cool. And like, I can't blame people. Like, it's you know.
Are you like the Beatles fan at Shea Stadium, like screaming out the performance? Are you at that level of hype for this team?
No. Sorry.
I mean, were you in 2008? Are you capable of getting to that level?
Mate, in 2008, oh man, I want to pull out that ticket. I got the Game 6 ticket. That was a euphoric experience. Yeah. No, I definitely, you know, sort of let my inhibitions down a bit on that particular night. But
yep.
No, look, I guess I'd want to make one overriding message, and that's that as a fan, you know, only one team wins a championship, right? So right now we're in the stretch where the Celtics, they're playing the best in the league. They've done it for a couple of months. Enjoy it for what it is. Like, first and foremost, make sure you kind of enjoy this moment. It can't be all about winning the championship, I don't think. Maybe I go backwards and forwards on that, but don't you reckon, Ben? Like, if you know, if you have to win the championship to enjoy being a fan, then a moment like this may not count in the scheme of winning the championship. But this is great. I'm really enjoying it. It's great watching them beat the brakes off teams.
Yeah, yes and no. We've had this conversation, I feel like a bunch of times since we started the pod, and probably would have if we were doing the pod throughout the IT years as well, that like, yeah, you know, the championship's not everything. What you want is a team that you can love and that's fun to cheer for and you can feel invested in and ride or die, but ultimately die because there's no chance of winning the championship. Now I feel like there is a chance of winning the championship, and therefore, like, to borrow a term from Jaylen Brown, my energy has shifted towards title hopes, and I feel like we're in the best chance since 2008. There's a post here on the sub by Reddit user I'm the King Sama, who said, "It's the best I've felt about our title chances since the Big Three." And just to quickly summarize their post, basically they're saying that this team has a solid 9-man rotation. Most of the guys have solid playoff reps. The Jays, you know, they were growing and developing in our prior runs, but now they're entering their primes at least and have that much needed playoff experience. So yeah, Joe, like I agree with you, but then suddenly when like the title's there and we're playing this well at almost the right time, I don't know, like don't you feel like it's kind of there to be seized, especially with like Al Horford? The Al Horford portion of this window is going to shut very soon, so it kind of feels like we got to go grab it while we can.
Yeah, I mean, we're like, it is openish, you know, it's a pretty open race. And whereas I think we're as at our best as good as anybody. But I guess I still want to like probably return to a sort of a recurring theme in our conversation, that your happiness, you know, as a fan is kind of a function of, it's like a positive difference between expectation and reality, right?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
part of the reason why we're enjoying this so much is because our expectations were like massively calibrated downwards in the first, you know, what was it? Let's call it the first
like
40
2
games
months,
of the year.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember like when we were talking, I think I'm telling the truth. This is certainly what I believed at the time. I believed like, hey, Tatum's shooting's going to return to normal. And I thought we were going to track for probably around 43, 44 wins. So, well, we're at 46. So, of course, I'm happy, you know. But, you know, I think there is actually a danger in like letting hopes turn into expectations for a title. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like I don't want that vibe again in my life, you know.
Yeah, I think the consensus among fans, I don't intend to speak for everyone, is that we don't expect to win the title, but we expect to be well and truly in the mix to win a title, you know, as opposed to like, you know, after last year, a second round exit would be, you know, the success metric for this season. Now, I mean, I need to be careful not to put an expectation on it, but I just expect us to put up a really good fight.
Them. You have expectations, whether you verbalize them or not.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's just hard to say, because once you lay those expectations out there, then you risk falling short of them. But it's hard to.
You have them, Ben. You can't. You're
gonna make me say it, Joe.
Yeah, I'm gonna make you say it.
It's so hard, and you kind of touched on it. It's so hard to look at, you know, this team, and you know they've beaten the pants off everybody. It's so hard to think about, you know, if they've got any weaknesses that'll be exploited during the playoffs. I don't know, maybe we can get to that. They're just really killing everybody. It's difficult to imagine them losing at this point. Like, will they lose again? Like, it's crazy. So I do expect them to probably, if I want to put like some specificity around my expectations, for them to at least make the Eastern Conference Finals, and then certainly put up a fight in that arena, and then potentially make the finals as well. And then the Suns are incredible, and that's a conversation for another podcast. But I mean, expectations are rightfully high. I think it's at this point, it's impossible not to have very high expectations. But I understand like not wanting to be burnt again, Joe. So there's no right or wrong answer here.
It's not so much that it's like, well, no, I guess it is. There is a sort of element of preservation of your psyche as a fan, that you're trying to achieve. But it's not even so much that. I'm just trying to, verbally process what we think it's going to look like, actually put it out there. And then, there's no, retrospective kind of apologies if it falls short of that. So right now, okay, you will be disappointed if the team doesn't make the Eastern Conference Finals.
100%.
You will be,
Yep.
So if the team...
You?
Well, hey, Ben. you can grill me for like, but I wanna, put the microscope on you. You can have some couch time, Ben. Like you'll be disappointed if that doesn't happen. So if it's like a really close second round exit, like it's a down to the wire 7-game sort of scenario, like Brooklyn and Milwaukee last year, would you be disappointed if we were, if Jayson Tatum's foot was on the line, for the game winner, and we went to overtime and lost in overtime?
But the basis for that disappointment would be different. Like, say we lose to the Nets in the second round or the Bucks or whatever, and it's because KD has a historic, playoff run. Then I'm disappointed because we were the victim of that, as opposed to being disappointed because we played poorly. So there's like different layers of disappointment there, if that makes sense.
Yep, but but to me, you're saying like I have expectations. I have a rough idea that the team might make the Eastern Conference Finals, but there's certain conditions under which I actually wouldn't necessarily like expect them to make the finals. I wouldn't necessarily expect them to make the finals if they had to play like honestly one of Milwaukee or Brooklyn in the second round.
Sure.
I wouldn't like outright expect them to win those two series personally. If they lost to
Toronto.
Actually Toronto scares me, man. Like
they do, yeah, they scare. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but there are some matchups out there that freak me out.
I don't want that, man. I want Cleveland. I want Chicago. Happy to take Chicago. I do not want Toronto, man. They're going to give us problems.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm trying to do here, Ben, is I'm trying to like get down to our actual expectations, And so I'm going to say that your actual expectation is not Eastern Conference Finals. Your expectation is very, very contingent on who we actually match up against, right?
Yeah, yes, but the sort of number of situations or circumstances that I think exist that could make us fall short of my expectation, I think they're dwindling rapidly. And I think that's what I'm so excited about is like I'm running out of reasons to not hype this team for a finals appearance or an Eastern Conference Finals appearance. Like I think we could probably agree on that, Joe. Like the amount of detractors for this team are rapidly decreasing. Am I wrong?
It's a really good team. And so that's why this is my expectations. My expectations are that they go to at least 7 games against either Brooklyn or Milwaukee. Okay, that's my expectations. A loss in any other series is a disappointment, Heat included. I think we're better than them.
I think that's fair.
And so we might catch a bad draw, and meet Brooklyn. Brooklyn, let's say we're the far out. Let's say we're the 4 seed, right? And Brooklyn upsets Milwaukee in round 1, and we lose to Brooklyn in round 2. I can't be disappointed in that, man. Like, I think we've all got to be realistic about how good they're going to be. Like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, have you looked at the numbers for the Kyrie Durant Nets over the past 15? Like, they're basically a 500 team over a recent stretch. Like, they haven't been that good. And like, yes, it's the playoffs and Kyrie and Durant, they're going to ISO, they're going to hit shots, but like they're going up against this insane switching Celtics defense. We don't even know, maybe Udoka will fall short of expectations here, but we don't know what Udoka and his staff are like or are capable of yet as far as scheming against teams in a long-term playoff series. Like, we don't have all the facts there, but I don't know, like if I were the Nets, or the Bucks, like the Celtics are probably the team that I would fear most going up against. So I don't know. I don't
absolutely.
particularly the Nets, less so the Bucks, but the Nets don't scare me that much.
Nah, man, don't get it twisted, man. Okay, I'm gonna say these are the magic 3 words for me right now. You know, in my little when I get on my little imaginary basketball soapbox, low variance offense. Repeat it after me. Low variance offense. The Nets have that in spades. Low variance offense is just so useful, man. Like I honestly think it's, if I could pick one thing to have in a player, that's what it would be. And they've got Durant, man. They've got the lowest variance offense there is, and they are always going to be in games. And when it gets tight, and this is my caveat on the Celtics, you know. If you were to take our record in games where our win probability had exceeded 90%, I don't know what it is. I mean, Spoons can probably help us out on that. You know, we'd probably have won. I don't know. We've probably handed over 4 or 5 games. I'm guessing here. I might be wrong. It could be less. You know, because we have won a lot of games where the win probability exceeded 90% too, because we, you know, got out by 20. But if you were to take those games, right, okay, we would have a lot better record right now. But you can't throw that out. Like those, I just don't think those psychological wounds are like completely healed. I think, like, man, I felt it against Detroit. I felt it against Dallas. You know, when things get tight, things can still go wrong. I still feel nervous when the lead starts getting down to 12 now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. When it got down to like 20 against the Jazz, I was freaking out. It snowballs.
Funny, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I hear you. I do hear you, Joe. I just this is why I was looking so much forward to this podcast, because I've been sort of running away with my feelings. I'm sure most of us have been, you know, over the last couple of weeks. And I knew that we were going to have like a serious heart-to-heart about where we're truly at and what's possible.
But I want you to enjoy it. I want all fans to enjoy it, because...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, you know, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, you know? Like, yeah. You know, this is great. We're playing the best basketball in the league. We've got to just enjoy it for what it is. But there is enough in our kind of... There are enough skeletons in our closet to you know, to give me pause about saying, oh, we're going to win it all, even though we look like the best team. Like, we honestly look like the best team in basketball playing against Utah. But like, there are reasons that there are reasons to give me pause, particularly in situations where the game is close, because I think our offense produces higher variance results than other teams. And I don't know that, because, man, I wish I could get a stat on that. You know, what's the lowest variance offensive team around? You know, what's the lowest variance? Like, I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but averages are so overrated. Averages are so overrated in basketball, and you know it when you play. You know, like, you know when you play, when you get a reliable source of offense. You know how it just calms you down, and that the effect that has on everything else. You know, And we never talk about variance. We never talk about variance. It's always mean. There's a whole world of statistics out there, and variance doesn't seem to be among them. It's outcast. It's alien. It's on Nauru.
Well, we're going to get some necessary data points on that in the playoffs for this iteration of the Celtics. Joe, are you familiar with the term defense wins championships?
Oh, no. Well, what does that mean?
It means, I think in the last, I think it's since 2001 that all title teams were at least 11th in defensive efficiency. So you need a solid defense to win a title. And there's a comment on Twitter from Evan Valenti, who's I think a podcast host. I'm not sure which podcast. Basically, they said they've got Mike Gorman coming up on an episode shortly, but they'll share something that Mike said that they found interesting, and that is that at one point during the game, Donovan Mitchell went over to Dwayne Wade, and told him, we can't figure out what the Celtics are doing defensively. We don't have a clue. And I guess Gorman overheard that. And the Jazz, I think, are the best offensive team, at least statistically, and not factoring in variance, Joe. Currently, like that's something, right? That the best offensive team can't get a read on what the Celtics defense is throwing at them with all the scouting, with all the sample size of what the Celtics have been doing for a while now. Oh, there's something there, right?
Oh, for sure. Like look, the team at its best is clearly capable of being the best team in the NBA. Like it's statistically just done it, and even though I'm ranting and raving about variance versus, average or mean, like it's, those numbers don't lie. You can't have those numbers over that period of time and them lie.
Sure.
It says what they can be, but you know that when you get in the middle of a series, right, things change, eh?
Absolutely.
Who actually is the best team, is not just a function of net rating. It's really, really indicative, right? And it's strongly correlative, but it's not. It's just not ultimately. Like when it gets to squeaky bum time, like net rating doesn't carry the day, man. It doesn't,
Yeah. Well, let's transition a little bit because this might help some people who are concerned about that, like yourself, rest at ease. So drilling down into some players individually. So Jayson Tatum, Joe, you've always been there for us when we needed you, like you have been in the first 10 minutes here. Like when we get a little too hyped about Tatum, in the past, it's been like, well, hang on, he's inconsistent. He can't take over games. He wasn't able to finish with his left hand. Unsteady shot profile. Too high variance, I have written here in my notes, Joe. All of those points, and I'm sure many more that I'm forgetting, that all valid points. Up until recently, maybe. Suddenly now we have 2022 Jayson Tatum scoring from everywhere. Huge leap in playmaking ability. There's a clear leadership aspect to him. Basically an elite two-way player, leading his team to a boatload of blowout wins. And I've got some more post-February 6 stats for you here, Joe. So Tatum, 30 points per game on 50% from the floor, 41% from three, 7 free throw attempts per game, 7 boards, 5 assists, and the best individual defensive rating and net rating of all players, averaging more than 30 minutes per game. Has this stretch from Tatum altered your perception? I mean, it sounds like maybe not based on your expectations for the playoffs. I'm starting to believe that he can be a guy who can execute for us in crunch time and get us those much-needed buckets when the game slows down based on what we've seen. Are you starting to sort of change your perception of Tatum based on what we've seen lately?
I mean, there's a phrasing question there, right? Like, can he be X? Like, can he be the person who delivers and saves the day, right? Okay, I'll flip it out. I'll flip it around. Can he be the guy that starts to rely on a sidestep three when things aren't going well and shoots 2 for 10? Can he be that guy?
Does he need to be to flip it back at you, Joe? Like, is he even jacking that shot very often now? Like, he's not really.
No, he's not. Like, I've really enjoyed watching him play. What I'm trying to say is there's, when you're thinking about possible outcomes, remember to consider the downsides, the possible downside outcomes as well.
Hard for me to do, but I'll try.
But it is possible. Like for me,
yeah.
With Tatum, okay, good bits first. Like I want to actually be specific about what I've noticed. With Tatum, I always think about tempo when I'm watching him. It's speed of decision making, eh? And I love the tempo he's playing with right now. It's not always about doing something quickly. It's knowing what you want to do quickly. And one thing we've absolutely seen less of, and it was actually hilarious. I think it was against OKC. He kind of went into his, between the legs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Scal goes,
here we go.
Here comes a step back. Here comes a step back.
Yeah.
And, he passed, I forget who was kind of a weird kind of alignment they had, but he passed and tried to do a little give and go. But like, if I never see another sidestep through from him again, I'm fine with it.
Totally.
I don't like it I think it's low variance, but it's also, he has a nature as a player, and that nature, if things stop going well, okay, watch out, that can still come back up, So what have I noticed from him? There's been this. People talk about the jump and playmaking, and there's been some awesome dimes like that one he had to Robert Williams right at the end of the shot clock.
Like sort of the wraparound.
Yeah. It was a bounce. It was a one-handed bounce pass. It was like really late clock, and like it's decision making is not all about tempo. Generally, quicker is better, I think. But that was an example where patience made that opportunity happen. Full credit to him.
Yep.
Left hand, he's finishing way more with his left hand. I've definitely noticed that. But the jump and playmaking, I don't know. This is just me, and I could be wrong. I'm an amateur on this stuff. But he's getting trapped a lot, and the Celtics, as I think Jared Weiss has pointed it out. I didn't notice it till he pointed it out because I'm an amateur. But he was like, oh, they're just using the point guard as the screener. So when the double comes, the point guard pops out and the point guard plays 4-on-3, right? That's a real simple read. It's great that he's making it. It's a simple read. He can probably keep doing that, but what if Smart lets him down? What if Pritchard goes cold for a little bit? We'll see if he keeps trusting them through some adversarial kind of situations, or situations where we've got a bit of adversity. Because that's where your true nature as a player, I think, kind of comes out. Like me when I play, I don't know, Ben, are you the kind of guy who when things are going bad, you just start, right, I'm going to shoot it? How do you play? I don't actually think you would, but how do you play? What's your kind of
well, I mean, at the Redfern C grade comp that I play in 2 nights a week, I'm a pass first point guard, so I'm trying to set up my teammates. The other night, though, we had a close game, and I came off a pick and drilled a mid-range jumper, and we won the game. So I wasn't afraid to take that shot. Didn't know I had that in me at the time, but I don't know if that answers your question at all. But
John Stockton.
To talk about variance, it's an extremely high variance league in general, and that the talent level is extremely low, myself included.
But like, even in Redfern C grade, there's high pressure moments, right, in a game. There's moments where you really you're just the competitive juices are flowing just the same, and I guarantee you're gonna revert to what you're comfortable doing. So you probably aren't looking to break down a defense and take a shot. So if a team needs that, you're probably not that guy. I'm a little bit like that. One of the reasons I really relate to Grant Williams, and he's my second favorite player, is because we're quite similar.
After Marcus.
We're quite similar in how we play. Like I recognize a lot of what he does. A lot of his weaknesses are my weaknesses. If like I can shoot it, I can shoot it under pressure. But like, man, if you need me to create something off dribble 1-on-1, I am not your guy. I can't. Like, I'm not going to go to that under pressure. I probably tend to pass it unless it's a set. Anyway, whatever. No one actually cares about what I play like. But what I'm trying to point out is Jayson Tatum has this he has a nature like every player does, and he's fighting against his nature, a little bit right now, and it's for the better of the team. But just watch out. Just watch out. It might happen. Hey, look, it may not. Over time, he's going to mature and he's going to grow. And like we all do as humans, we sort of learn to suppress our base instinct, right? And we make an adult decision. And I guess as you go into basketball adulthood, similar things will happen. But, under pressure, like the little child in us comes out, And under basketball pressure, the basketball child comes out in us.
Yep.
What do you make of that?
I agree. Well, yeah, it may or it may not. Like you said, I think it's 50-50 because we are seeing this maturation of Jayson Tatum and his game. I think that it's clear that not only he but the rest of the team buy in to just like the basketball philosophy that Ime Udoka is preaching, and as well in terms of Marcus Smart as the screener, I think we might see more of that action generally throughout the regular season and not in crunch time. And one thing is for certain, we haven't seen crunch time really in a while outside of the Mavs game. I think, I can't remember who said or wrote this. It was someone on that sort of Zach Lowe tier of analysts that in the playoffs we're likely to see way more of Jaylen Brown as the screener. that when the double comes and you pop the ball out, suddenly it's to a much more elite, at least shot creator, not necessarily playmaker, in Jaylen Brown, who will then have some space to work. And Jaylen's been fantastic. Like, not to segue too much here, but he was great in that Memphis game. Then he sprained his ankle, came back, had a sort of slow run of things as he was healing again, and now seems to be back to that level again. So, a couple of things there. Like, first of all, I think that we are seeing Jayson Tatum mature at a very young age. And I don't think that we're necessarily going to have to rely on that specific action in the playoffs all the time, as far as Marcus Smart being the screener and having to initiate when Tatum passes out of that double. So it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to the playoffs. But, as far as Joe, I just want to make sure I get your answer here. Your perception of Jayson Tatum and like who he can be, like, can he lead a team through the playoffs? Is he the guy on a championship team? Has he changed your perception there at all?
I feel like another way of asking that question is asking, can he be Kevin Durant? Is he that level of player?
Can he be Chauncey Billups as part of a series of great players on the 04 Pistons? Like, does he need to be Kevin Durant?
Most teams need a Kevin Durant.
But Kevin Durant, there's not many Kevin Durants.
No, there's not a lot. But, it's just the nature of it. Like, I hate that NBA basketball is this way, but it undeniably is. Like, there's just like, you know what I mean? Like, there is just significant differences as you go up the tiers, between like the reality bending players and the really, really good all-stars. There's a difference, man. And do I, like, is my honest expectation of Tatum that he is that guy? I mean, come on. Like, we all know is there really any Celtics fans out there saying, hey, Tatum's the next, like, he's the next Durant? Is there really anybody out there saying that?
I don't think so, but they might be saying he's the next Kawhi. Like, he's trending in that level. I think it's hard to argue that at this point. Like, all the stats, the eye test, the results, like the youth, the age at which he's displaying this, like, he's absolutely trending in that direction. No one reaches the heights of Kevin Durant. That's so rare. He's up there with like LeBron and MJ and like those guys. But like Kawhi and people who are good enough to win championships in the right window, I think Tatum's at the very least, you could have to say, from what we've seen lately, he's looks to be trending in that direction.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is just I'm going to be so happy to be wrong, about this, if I am wrong, but my honest expectation of him is not that he is that guy. He's not Kevin Durant. And you just run back through it, right? Like, who wins, right? We had Milwaukee, LeBron. Before that, we had Curry we had Kawhi. I think you're underselling Kawhi's skills, but hey, look, maybe I'm kind of retroactively assigning him a status because he won a championship. But like, we knew he was that guy when the Raptors traded for him, right? Like,
True.
He was definitely considered on that level. You just keep going back. Before that, Curry and Durant won it twice. Before that, LeBron. Before that, Curry. Before that, well, you had the Spurs. Spurs is a bit sui generis.
At that point in their tenure.
Yeah. Now, so what this is kind of, as I'm thinking, kind of a little extemporaneously, what that sort of says is it just says, look, hey, it's not impossible to win without one of those elite guys, but you're always going to be competing against one of those elite guys.
Yeah.
And
like the 2014 Spurs.
Right. So it means that you have to have a team that fits together. And that's my thing around Tatum. He's a really, really good player. Maybe great, but we're always going to have a team that fits around him. It's not going to be like we kind of, like right now, I kind of feel like we need to be beating teams by 20 in order to be safe. I still don't trust us in close games that much, We did great against Brooklyn. The Nuggets game at home, that was a good one. But we haven't had a lot, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we have. I feel like at this point, we've had many good performances against many good teams under a variety of circumstances.
Oh, look, we've had heaps of great performances against teams. Don't get me wrong. But how many times has the game been close down the stretch? Not that many.
Yeah, I mean, once against the Mavs and we lost. So I definitely get your point.
Pistons. The Pistons loss was close down the stretch.
Sure, lost to the Pacers.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not obvious to me that both the Celtics and Tatum are just going to leap into the first tier, that elite tier. I don't consider Tatum a reality bender.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No, fair enough. Hey, let me fire off a couple of Reddit comments here very quickly. So Tatum is God 1022. I'm sure they're not biased at all. Says the main thing is that Tatum is good enough now to be the best player on a championship team, which we've discussed. I don't care if you think he's the 4th best player in the NBA or the 10th. I'm convinced we can win the chip with him leading us. So a variety of opinions on the matter. A comment from Mandalorian Michael. They say, if he keeps playing like he has, and we keep winning and squeeze into the number 1 seed by the end, which is possible, we're 1 game back now, I don't see how he wouldn't be a top contender for MVP. Joe, I feel like I know your answer to this based on everything we've discussed, but do you feel like there's an outside chance that he wins MVP this season? Like, say we finish the 1st seed, we win out, maybe we lose 2 games, but we're a clear 1st seed in the East. And based on how the season started and his stats, since then, is there any way that he could go from where we are now to winning MVP by the end of the season?
So the question of can he win MVP? I mean, anyone can win MVP if the narrative sort of swings in their favor,
Well, is it already won by someone else at this point, or can Tatum still snatch it?
I mean, I'm a Jokic fanboy, but I think what he
dunk on him.
Sorry, he did
dunk on him.
He got him pretty good. Got him. Yes. I think look, I think he can definitely get votes for it. So if you can get votes for it, you can win it conceivably, right? I see Tatum as Paul George, maybe a bit better. Paul George is an awesome player. You could win a championship with Paul George, but the circumstances have to be right,
Yep.
I think. And Paul George he was top 3 MVP voting that last year in OKC, I think. Is that right? Mm-hmm. He had an amazing year, eh?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So this year, could he? I mean, yep, sure. I think we've had pretty similar records to the Mavs. We're starting to pull ahead a little bit now, but I think you can make a similar argument for Luka, who I think is, if you said would I trade Luka straight up for Tatum, yes I would. So I think he's better. Yeah, maybe. Hey, look, it'd be cool. If we won out our last 9 games here. I mean that's pretty cool. It's pretty tough. If we win out, we'll probably be the 1 seed, which is interesting because, that means that the top, you know what I mean? What do we got? How many wins have we got right now? 46? It means I
think so. Yeah, I just love that you're like, yeah, it'd be pretty cool. It's like, dude, that would be amazing. Like that would be the best thing that happened to me this year. Like that would be so. You're getting married, so you can't say that, but it would be so freaking good if we won out and took the 1 seed, and Tatum was even just in that he didn't win MVP, but he was this close. That would be so validating. That would be amazing. I think it would be better than pretty cool.
I'd love it. Yeah. Look, I am a fan too. I feel like I don't want to make, do I sound like a hater?
No. What we've got here, Joe, this dynamic, it's a healthy balance. It's a good conversation. So you're good.
Thanks. That would be awesome. I love it. It's quite funny to think that 55 games is gonna definitely win the East. That's a low number, eh? That's a super low number.
Yep. Competitive right now.
Yeah. I think, people who say that Devin Booker should have more of a look in, I've always got a lot of sympathy. When a team is so much better than every other team in the league over the course of the season, then I feel like that does warrant some consideration. Like, because the Suns are going to win like 65 games, maybe 66, something like that. It's going to be they're going to lap the field, you know? So why shouldn't they? Maybe, I guess I should be making the argument for Tatum if I'm a Celtics fan, but like, why shouldn't Devin Booker get it over Chris Paul or get it over Tatum?
He probably should. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're not going to get into the reads of this conversation, but like evaluating the value of a player to a team and then who is the most valuable, how Tatum has led the Celtics to this juncture based on where they started I think that's the sort of the crux of the argument. But look, we're running super long here. I want to wrap this up soon, Joe. So I'm going to combine my next like 4 questions into one. Who else or what else from the Celtics in this stretch has really stood out to you as being like a key component to this run and this turnaround?
Pritchard. Shooting.
Yeah, nice. I'm so glad you led with that.
Like, it's
and playing off Tatum.
Yeah. And I've always I really hate it when people are like, Pritchard's he can't defend. Man, I just feel like I'm not that good of a basketball observer, but I know what I've watched when I've watched Pritchard. Yeah, he's small, but I always remember watching him last year and being like, man, that guy digs into the big man when he gets, like, if he's has to pick up the roll man, like, he gets into his shins. You know, the guy doesn't stop trying. He's an NBA caliber athlete. You know, it's just like, man, some people just lob cliches, you know? This guy plays no defense. This guy's a lockdown defender. Like, the truth is just always somewhere in between. Mm-hmm. So just wanted to, you know, shout out Pritchard. I love seeing him lock up Clarkson, you know? And if he catches, I don't know, DeAndre Ayton in the post, he's going to get eaten alive. Doesn't make him a bad defender, you know? Yeah, anyway.
Well, that's a failure on the defense as a whole, that we didn't switch out that matchup at that point and he got stranded against Ayton, if that were to be the case.
Right. And generally we're pretty good at the old kick out, what do they call it? The scram switch, X out.
Scram switch, yeah. He does, Pritchard does die, as most players do, on the second screen. I think they call it a drag screen. And Scal had a comment on the call against the Jazz where he did fail to pursue his man around the second screen as they kind of went around that drag screen and dove into the paint. He did kind of die off in that pursuit, and Scal called him out on it. Much easier said than done to say, hey, just like keep running around that second screen and like keep marking your guy. But you know, an area to focus on for Pritchard, I guess. But we're really nitpicking at that point. I think Pritchard's been great. Who else, Joe? Who else has stood out to you?
Well, I think that's it for real standouts. I feel like Grant Williams has kind of continued more or less apace, you know?
Sure. I'm surprised you haven't brought up Marcus Smart, because we have loved Marcus Smart unconditionally for the duration of the life of this podcast. Yeah, absolutely. But like, this is by far the best that he's ever played, and you know, he's really drawn that out for a sizable sample size now, at least 20 games. There's a Reddit comment on the Jazz game by user 18JBJT. They say, I completely forgot about Mike Conley's existence in the Jazz game. And that's because I haven't got the stat here, unfortunately, but I think basically whenever Mike Conley was guarded by Marcus Smart, he did not score. Like, Smart held him to literally 0 points in the game, which is amazing. And he's been doing that frequently.
Yeah, no. Like, I think it is Dan Greenberg who does that tweet. Marcus Smart matched up with such and such for 12 possessions. He scored 0 points. He matched up with other such and such. He scored 0 points.
Friend of the show, Greeny.
Yeah, old mate, Greeny. Greeny.
How are you, mate?
Mate. Yeah. With Smart, okay, this is kind of how I kind of see it. Like, I've always thought he was a point guard. It's just another one of those things. People are like, oh, there's no playmakers on the Celtics. Like, people have such narrow definitions sometimes of players. It drives me up the wall. But, I mean, I've always seen Smart as I've always seen him as he's a great passer. He is. He's really creative. I think what people are saying is that he doesn't, necessarily get dribble penetration to score, but the guy gets into the paint. He does. If he needs to, he knows how to use a pick to get in the paint. I guess what I'm trying to say is I sort of feel like Smart's living up to my expectations of him as a player. So maybe that's why he hasn't sort of stuck out to me so much. Whereas Pritchard, this is kind of new, but like for Smart, he's sort of living up to my expectations of him. I don't know. Like, he's exceeded yours?
He has. I was always curious to see what he would look like as the primary point guard on this team or any team. And the way that he runs the offense, the way that he talks constantly. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised if I think about like who Marcus Smart is and who we know him to be as a player and as a person. I shouldn't be surprised at how active he is with communicating on both ends, but he really seems to be like an extension of the coaching staff. Like you can hear him even when the arena's loud and even when he's on the bench talking actively and like sort of conducting like some sort of basketball maestro. And the fact that he's like sort of walking the talk there when he's out there, I just find it really impressive. And like, not only that, but the sort of the casual fanciness of some of his passes. Like, I can't remember which game it was, but where Al Horford flared out to the corner as Smart was driving and he sort of behind the back, flipped it back to Horford who splashed the three.
Yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
Like how there's a casual flair and a casual confidence to his game. Like he's not just executing, but he's doing it with ease as well and with few mistakes, which I think is the biggest surprise. There was a love-hate relationship with, or like an acceptance of like, we love Smart, we love what he does, but with that comes a sort of a occasional wave of despair in the errors that he would make. And I think he's really dialed that down a little bit. But as far as his defense, like I'm just talking about his playmaking now, but Kirk Goldsberry put out an article for ESPN today about using advanced metrics to determine the all-defense teams for this season. Here's a little snippet for you, Joe. Boston allows just 1.05 points per possession when Smart is involved in a switch, which is the best such number for any guard in the league this season. And just sort of transitioning slightly, but Robert Williams obviously mentioned in the same article when it comes to all defense teams, 164 players have defended 500 shots as the closest defender this season. And Robert Williams is the only one who has held opponents to under 40% shooting. And that figure is especially remarkable considering that Robert Williams defends the paint, the spot on the court where overall field goal percentage is typically the highest. Williams, however, has allowed the second lowest field goal percentage at the rim since January 1. So transition a little bit there from Smart to Time Lord, but these two guys are 1 and 5, both standout performers in this turnaround. So amazing to see.
Yeah, everyone's playing well.
That's the summary.
It's great.
Absolutely.
It's great. Enjoy it.
Can we get your tight 5 or tight 1 on Jaylen Brown? Because we've got to give him his flowers, right? Like he has been good, and he's probably been the player that collectively we've been the most critical of, throughout the life of this podcast.
Yeah. He has stretches where he does hurt us. In a way, I like there was this against Utah, the stretch where Tice had the block on Clarkson, and Jaylen came down and he threw it behind his back and he missed. Who was trying to hit? I think he was trying to hit Grant, maybe. Someone on the fast break, And then he launched a couple of quick threes. Sometimes I think he hurts us looking for his offense a little too much. But hey, look, when he shoots, the ball goes in a lot. He's not an intuitive basketball player in the same way that Smart is, but he's effective, and I like seeing him aggressive. He makes things happen for us when he's aggressive. So, am I saying he's aggressive as normal? Like, I guess I can't complain about him taking chances and making mistakes if I think he's ultimately like best served being aggressive.
Sure.
Like that means he's going to make mistakes of commission, right? Yeah. So as long as he's doing that, I guess. Look, we just have to we have to accept it, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, I think with Jaylen, like the thing that always amazes me, like, do you remember when he was a rookie and even a second year player? And
Yeah,
like
I was just
how
thinking about
bad
this
his
the other day.
finishing around the rim was?
Yeah.
So bad. And now he's incredible. He's really good. He definitely has a left hand.
Absolutely. And he's like post moves where he picks up his dribble and like that's not it for him in that possession, and he's still on his pivot foot or off his pivot foot, still has like a series of moves that he can go to. I think that's really impressive, especially like when you look at his rookie season and how far he's come in that sense.
He has the Gordon Hayward jam on the brakes, go to the fall away off a spin around, turn around, fall away off a drive. Yeah, he has that down.
Yeah, absolutely.
He also, one shot he has down really well is he does a great job of staying loose when he absorbs contact. So he'll like absorb contact around about the elbow or a little bit before. He stays on balance. That's the thing he's got over Tatum. Like, he is a way better athlete than Tatum. Like, and not in jumping and all the rest of it. He's just better balanced.
Sure.
Tatum's got other significant advantages over him, but Jaylen's form of athleticism, Jaylen is so balanced and he gets so low to the ground. There's something I love about watching him. Yeah, Jaylen looks great when he does it. Yeah.
So, couple of quick questions to finish up here. I was going to ask you what potential matchups in the East playoffs scare you the most. I feel like we touched on that. We talked about the Nets and the Raptors. So, who are the matchups that you're gunning for then? What's the pathway through to at least the Eastern Conference Finals for the Celtics?
Oh, I want Chicago, man.
Hell yeah.
I never thought it was real. Man. Cleveland doesn't really worry me. I feel like we should have handled our business against them. We had
what about
like a
Miami?
home. Doesn't really worry me, but they should be good. I don't know. Like, I don't have a great feel for them. They've had so many guys out, you know.
Sure.
In terms of whoever gets the 8, well, Brooklyn's actually doesn't matter. The play-ins are relevant because Brooklyn will win it, and they'll be playing against either the Cavs or the Raptors for 7. So yeah, like I guess it'd have to be those two. That's where I'd want to get, which kind of means the 3 seed is probably going to be about right.
Yeah.
Although actually Chicago's really close to like they kind of pulled back. They're basically a half game ahead, I think now of Cleveland, Toronto.
Yeah, they're slowly dropping their way down into potentially the play-in territory. So
I guess we really want to look at that number 1 seed means that we probably won't play the Nets in the first round because I think the Nets will qualify at 7. I think they would beat Toronto or Cleveland in one of those games. Certainly, I think they'd beat Cleveland in a play-in game to put them into the 7 seed. And that would leave us if we were the 1 seed playing the 8, which should be the weaker of Toronto or Cleveland.
what unanswered questions are there about the Celtics? An example of that, one of the doubts or questions around the seas was that they struggled against elite rim protection teams or like bigs that are really good rim protectors, Rudy Gobert, and one game, but we certainly proved that doubt wrong in that game. What are the other remaining unanswered questions that you'd sort of like to see answered through the rest of the regular season or through the playoffs? You talked about Tatum necessarily not being able to be the guy on that team. What else?
Zone's given us trouble in the past. I'd like to see how we go. I'd like to see us be tested against a bit of zone leading up. I think we're going to see a lot of it in the playoffs. You know, Miami's going to zone up against us, you know, and that'll be a real test of Tatum's growth as a decision maker. He's going to have to get off the ball and get back on it quickly to put pressure on that defense. I'd like to see Tatum at the nail a lot there. Tatum and Smart are the guys I'd like at the nail there.
Okay, it's going to be interesting to see. Before we wrap it up, any other points that you want to get to, Joe, that we haven't touched on yet? It's been a while since we've had you on. Any hot takes you want to fire off?
Shivers, it would have been good if we hadn't drafted Neesmith. We drafted Sadiq Bey or Maxey.
Oh my God.
Can't win them all.
Desmond Bain.
Oh.
But
yeah, Danny didn't have a great run at the end there, but oh well. We did have Pritchard and Williams, they're players.
yeah, I mean, if you look at the current team, almost all of them were drafted by Danny Ainge, with the exception of Horford, and then like some of the outside pieces. So you can't hit on them all.
Yeah.
Derek White, yeah. Yeah, it's a good call out though, and something that keeps me up regularly, especially Desmond Bain. Joe, we're going to wrap it up there. Mate, so good to hang out and talk some Celtics with you. It's been a while. All the best, by the way, with your upcoming nuptials, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, man.
Yeah. I might need to reach out to the boys, get some advice, some pre-wedding advice. You know, maybe
I can give you plenty of post-wedding advice, but pre-wedding, it's been a while.
Hey, looking forward to it.
Yeah, man, all the best. All right, folks, that'll do it for this one. Thank you for listening. We'll be back sometime after the Celtics' upcoming back-to-back. Until then, go Celtics. Peace.